Okay, I'd like to introduce tonight's speaker, John.
Thank you, JJ. So my name's John. I'm a marijuana addict. The first time I spoke in front of this many people, I went, didn't come out so good. I was like freaked out. Public speaking did not come naturally to me. I've had to work on it over the last 40 years or so to get a little bit more comfortable up here. But first of all, I want to welcome everybody to the 30th, can you believe that? 30th MA Convention. Gratitude by the Golden Gate, hosted by District 2. So I want to let everybody know I just stand here in awe in front of all of you. This is just so awesome. This is such a great celebration of recovery. I just think it's so awesome we can get together. We survived the pandemic and we survived Zoom, and now we're all here in person. It is just really great to see each other, and some people are a lot taller than I thought they were. Some people are shorter, but that's okay. You can see the sparkle in people's eyes a whole lot better, and that's the great thing about recovery, is we get the sparkle in our eye back, we come back alive. It's really beautiful. Okay, so we're also grateful we can share recovery with people from all around the world. And I want to just do a real quick check here. I know we got Phil from Vienna, right? Where's Phil? Wow. Do we have any Canucks in the crowd? Yeah. Okay, is there anybody else who's like from a foreign country? I'm not talking about Georgia or something. Whereabouts? All right, England. Woo! I think I saw that somebody's coming from Costa Rica too, so that's pretty awesome. All right. So right now I want to let you know that putting on a convention, as some people like Jonathan here know, is not a small undertaking. It really takes a lot of work to do that. I know you up in Seattle, you just got done doing it. Hope you've survived and recovered by now. It takes a while to chill out afterwards. So knowing that it was going to be a complicated task, we started way before the Seattle convention because we wanted to have a place picked out. And we picked out this place right here. And, of course, at that time, we thought we were going to do it on a different weekend, but turns out it conflicts with a very important holiday. So we had a little egg on our face the first time around when we announced. So that's why we're doing it on Labor Day. Hope all of you are able to get here okay, because Labor Day travel is not a whole lot of fun, So we formed a steering committee, and we got committee heads and, just a lot of organization, which is really, really important. It's not like a two-person operation by any means, Kathy and I did a lot of stuff, but it's not a two-person operation. We had to have other people help us. And I'm not sure if Zach is here, but I want to give Zach a big round of applause. He spent a lot of hours building the website, and the registration stuff was just tons and tons of stuff and a lot of work. And where's Kathy? Is Kathy here? Yeah, give Kathy a round of applause. She spent a lot of hours doing a lot of things, but the thing that blew my mind the most is think about the hotel. We thought when we signed the contract that all the rooms were going to be, like 119 and 129 if you had two people in the room for breakfast. And it turned out that they said at some point when we blew through our block of rooms, because we ended up with way more people than we expected, they started charging us more. And it went up, I think, to like 169 or something like that. And so Kathy, every time somebody canceled, she would try to get them a 119 room. And so she must have done that for like about 20 or 30 people at least. Incredible work. But there was lots of other people who worked really hard. Rich C. here. Of course, once he became president of the Board of Trustees, he was a lot more busy. He certainly noticed a difference, and his eyes looked a lot more tired because he's like on the East Coast and we're on the West Coast and we're having these meetings. But he went to practically every single steering committee meeting, and then he was at merchandise and he was at programming, and you name it. He went to more meetings than just about anybody, even in our district. You know, it was amazing how many he went to. Is Jules in here?
She's in the merchandising area.
Yeah, working hard. Yeah, but she was the one that did the logo. If you guys like the logo, give her a big round of applause. And Susan L. lives in Toronto. She was at a lot of meetings and did a lot of service for the Zoom fundraisers. Mary Ann, is she in the room? She's probably working too. She's a very dedicated person, but she did a lot of work on the Zoom stuff and also the fundraising and gift baskets too. So. And then, let's see, where's Nina? Is Nina in here?
Right there.
Right there. Nina worked really hard on the programming. And she was at a lot of meetings too. And then, let's see, who else I got here? Rachel, she's probably in the hospitality room. Or is she here? Rachel? She's probably working. She did the hospitality. Audrey, unfortunately, got COVID, so she can't be with us, but she did a bang-up job in organizing volunteers. Ella, is Ella here? Ella? No Ella? Okay, they're all working. They're dedicated people. Can you believe that? Okay. So, and then there's a whole lot of other people that helped. They're probably all working too. But I just want to thank everybody that helped. We had like 70 people sign up to be volunteers. We had tie-dye parties. We did all kinds of stuff, all these fundraisers, and just so much help, you know. They say, you know, it takes a village. At least somebody did that. I think she lost the election, though, unfortunately. That's about as political as I'm going to get. But, you know, it takes a community to do these kind of things. So I hope you guys get the support you need down there, and it'll come through for you because you guys do a fabulous job. I'm looking forward to being there next year. Okay, so I want to say that, you know, for me, you know, I have a little bit of anxiety issues, you know, stuff can get to me, and this has been a great opportunity to make sure that I have a good connection with my higher power. And my higher power has been able to guide me through a lot of my anxiety, to do the next right thing and not procrastinate, to be creative and determined, and try to make this the best possible experience we can for all of you. And we hope you have a great time here at this convention. So before I tell my story, I've been asked to talk a little bit about the theme of the convention. The theme is Gratitude by the Golden Gate, as you probably all know, and if you bought a t-shirt, you can just look at it and read it. Okay, so we picked that theme because the other ones weren't near as good. No, I'm just kidding. Kathy came up with the theme, that's why she wants me to talk about it. Okay, so the whole idea behind Gratitude by the Golden Gate is, if you went on the tour with me today, you saw what a magnificent thing the Golden Gate Bridge is. It's really the icon for the Bay Area. The Golden Gate Bridge is beautiful, even if it's foggy, but on a sunny day like today actually turned out to be not too bad. We actually saw the sun on the Golden Gate. It was beautiful. And then gratitude, you know, gratitude is one of those cardinal things. And I know if Nina's hosting or chairing a meeting, you know, there's a pretty good chance that either acceptance or gratitude is going to be the topic. And we like gratitude in our district because we have a lot to be grateful for. You know, one of the things that I'm particularly grateful for is, you know, we've had a district that is actually done well for 37 years. We've been in business 37 years. And to me, that's pretty amazing. You know, we got, you know, lots of meetings that are big. Unfortunately, not too many of them are in person because we haven't kind of got back and connected that way. But I assume that sooner or later we'll start adding more in-persons. You know, we have really healthy DSC meeting. You know, we pretty much get our quorum all the time. Most of the meeting representatives show up. It's really nice. And there's lots of people with long-term sobriety in our district. So it's kind of nice. You know, you can go to a meeting and hear some good recovery. And we're also grateful for everybody else that comes here. But, you know, the Bay Area is a beautiful place. Some of you who've been touring around got here early, you know, got to see some of the beautiful places here. We got great culture, like with San Francisco. And there's incredible beauty, beaches and mountains nearby. You can go north to the Redwoods. I think some of you actually took the Redwood tour, right? So hopefully you had a good time on that. So gratitude is something big. But, you know, the biggest thing I'm grateful for is that I found 12-step recovery. And I don't have to live in the insanity of the disease anymore, you know, that, you know, there was people there that helped me get clean and sober, and gratitude, I think, is about passing it on. I used to do a class on 12-step recovery, and I used to always have the patient say, go to meetings, get a sponsor, work the steps. And I'd have them call and response back and forth about 4 or 5 times, just so it would get in their brains. Because, you know, the thing about people that go through the spend dry programs is that they don't always get it. You know, they think, oh, I've been through this treatment program. I got it all figured out. You know, I just don't need to drink or use again and I'll be good. But, you know, if it was that easy, you know, we wouldn't need to go to meetings. But, you know, I'm a firm believer that, you know, there's more to it than that. And it's go to meetings, get a sponsor, work the steps, do service. I think that do service piece is extremely important, and hopefully throughout my talk you'll see why I think it's extremely important. So my story is a story of somebody who's dedicated their life to service and recovery. That doesn't mean I don't have fun, but I've dedicated my life to that. And I'll talk more about that later because it wasn't always like that. You know, before I got into recovery, you know, I had no clue what was going on in my life other than it wasn't working very good. But, you know, now I understand that I have a chronic, progressive, and fatal disease of addiction. And I get a daily reprieve based on my spiritual condition. And it took me a long time to figure that out. So let me start at the beginning of my story. I am a child of 2 people who immigrated to the United States from Canada. My parents grew up in Canada during the Depression, and that really made a huge difference in my life that they grew up during the Depression. And then after they got out of the Depression, guess what happened after that? WW2, the big one, you know? And so they were involved in the war effort. They were involved in the Manhattan Project, which was helping design and do the atomic bomb. My mother was an incredible mathematician. My father was a mechanical engineer, and they got a lot of connections through working that, and that's how they ended up in UC Berkeley. My dad ended up at UC Berkeley, becoming a professor of mechanical engineering, and he helped a lot of people doing that. But unfortunately, my dad had a few issues. God bless him. I mean, I'm sure he meant well and did the best he could. Like, if you've worked the steps, you kind of understand, you know. Being a parent is not an easy job, and he unfortunately didn't have a dad much. His father was a ship captain, and he was gone, you know, 28 days out of a month. And so he wasn't home very much, so my dad was raised by his drug addict mother. She became addicted to opiates, and she was not an easy person to get along with. So he had a lot of feelings of inadequacy, and he was threatened by me. You know, when I was a little kid, he was threatened by me, and he would actually threaten to kill me because he was so pissed off at me. Because, you know, I'd give him a lot of shit. You know, I was one of those kids. I was not an easy kid to raise, you know, because a little bit of a hell raiser. I kind of was very independent at a very young age, and as my wife will tell you, I'm kind of opinionated sometimes. But, you know, that's who I am, and I try not to be too bad about it. So that's a little bit about my family of origin, and, you know, it was a difficult childhood growing up. You know, I kind of felt like maybe there was some kind of mistake, you know, that I was born into the wrong family, you know, because I could not believe how people were so dour. My parents were very serious people, and, you know, they were very critical, and I guess they were very insecure, really, if it comes down to it. Because usually when people have that perfectionism and that, you know, drive to be successful, it's because it's trying to compensate, right? So that's what they were doing. They were compensating, and they tried to create me in their own image and make me like a really good student, but, you know, that just wasn't my thing, you know. I did graduate from high school, and I graduated from college, but I was not on the honor roll like my parents were. You know, I was just good enough to get by, you know. B's, C's, you know. I'd get an A if I liked the class, but most of the time it was just not that much for me. So my childhood was a very painful and difficult childhood. I spent a lot of time crying and feeling pretty alienated because, you know, I wanted a loving family, and I didn't have one, you know. They took care of me. They fed me. They did some pretty wonderful things. Like when I should have been in third grade, my dad had a sabbatical. College professors get like a year off every 7 years to go and explore around and talk to scientists in different areas. So that's what we did. We went to Seattle, spent a summer there, went in the fall. We went to down to Fullerton, California, real garden spot. Actually, it was in those days. There was a lot of orange groves back in those days, and I thought that was pretty cool. But it was weird, you know, like going to a different school, don't know anybody and all that. But then that wasn't that big of a deal. And then we went to Mexico. That was super cool, you know, getting to go snorkeling and fishing and see some just incredible things down there. Went around the rest of the United States. So, you know, we get experiences like that. And then when the next one that came around, I think I was like, should have been a sophomore in high school, we went to Australia. And my dad figured out that you could spend in the same amount going to Australia and coming back as you could going to Australia and then coming back through Europe. So that's what we did, came back through Europe. So I got to travel around the world when I was a 16-year-old. Which is a pretty amazing experience. I got to go to the Taj Mahal and got to enjoy Australia. Australia is a magnificent country. You ever get a chance to go there, it's beautiful. Lots of other places too, like Europe. That was really fascinating to go there. And it kind of really got me interested in travel. You know, that's something I always wanted to do, but I'll talk more about that later. Teenage years, you know, I was so insecure because my parents were so critical that it was just really hard for me to be very social when I was in high school. I had friends, we played sports, we followed sports, we bet on sports. Didn't have a girlfriend. You know, I was just like too damn shy to ask a girl out. There's some girls that I really thought were cool that I could have asked out, but did I? No, I was too afraid. So it was a weird experience being a high school kid. There's parts of it I really enjoyed, but for the most part, you know, it was like high school was just, I couldn't wait to graduate from high school and get out of there. And then when I graduated from high school, it was the summer of love, 1967. Guess what I figured out then? You can get high on marijuana. You know, I drank before, you know, and And I like to drink, except I didn't like throwing up. I didn't like hangovers, you know. That's really the downside of drinking. I mean, like, if I drank like a gentleman, you know, I would probably just get a nice buzz and then that'd be it, you know. But I was one of those people that if a little bit's good, let's see what a lot more will do. And then if a lot more, after I do a lot more, like all bets are off, you know. I spent years trying to figure that one out. It was like, okay, now if I have 3 drinks, you know, I'll start feeling better, okay? But after 3 drinks, my ability to say I'm just going to have 3 drinks went right out the window, right? So then I would just have to keep drinking until I threw up. And I'll just tell one more alcohol story, and then I'll get back to marijuana, because this is MA. Okay, pardon me, but I'll tell you, the worst time, the thing that really got me was, I wasn't old enough to buy liquor, but when I went away to college and was staying in the dorms my first semester out of, into school, you know, I drank Mountain Red Burgundy by Charles Krug. Not bad. Mountain Red Burgundy is different than Red Mountain. So I asked this person to buy me some, you know, good Burgundy, excuse me. And he bought a whole friggin' gallon of Red Mountain, which isn't even wine. It doesn't say wine on anywhere on the label. It looks like wine, but it is rot gut. And did that stop me from drinking it? No, not at all. I drank enough to where I threw up this kind of reddish, weird stuff for 2 days, you know. It just completely destroyed me because I was drinking it like Kool-Aid, you know. And it was not Kool-Aid, you know. I probably drank half a gallon of that stuff. Ooh. Anyway, so naturally when I found marijuana, it's like, yes. Do you get a hangover from marijuana? Well, nowadays, you know, I kind of think you probably do, but nothing like alcohol, that's for damn sure. So the first time I ever got high was on Telegraph Avenue. Now, back in the day, that was a cool spot to hang out. It's kind of like you went to Haight-Ashbury. Well, on the East Bay, it was Telegraph Avenue. You know, the head shops were there, drugs were there, you know, lots of cool hip shops and all that kind of stuff, bookstores. Anyway, so, you know, that's where I first got, I was there. And as soon as I tried it, I loved it. I said, boy, I can't wait to do this again. So within a year, I was working on connections and then buying like, you know, a kilo of it and making up lids and selling it. Because if you do that, if you're a drug addict, that's a good thing because then you don't run out. To me, that was my idea of a drug problem. Running out. So I had this coffee can that was about like this, all full of clean marijuana, and I could roll a joint anytime I wanted. So I'd smoke about 20 a day. Now, you know, I was able to pull that off and still graduate from college. Yeah, I would have done much better probably if I hadn't, but, you know, it was good. I thought everything was great, you know, because, you know, I had lots of friends. You know, I'd throw parties and 100 people would show up, you know, and we'd have live bands. And one time we blocked off the street, you know, had a street party, have dancing in the street, live bands. It was a lot of fun. Until, you know, it wasn't so much. But, you know, there were some good days too. I want to talk a little bit about that because, you know, it's not like, you know, any of us use drugs because the first time we try it, we hate it. Now, I've talked to people that, you know, the first time they tried it, they didn't like it. And they tried it several more times until they did like it. But I was not one of those people. It was love at first smoke. And I had a lot of good times, you know, going to the Fillmore, going to the Avalon, dropping acid, looking at the dead, you know, doing all those hippie things, because it was kind of a lot of fun in the Bay Area in those days. There were some great shows that we would see. I remember one show I saw, you know, it was Jimi Hendrix and Eric Clapton in the same show. Couldn't believe it. And then there was another band that was called Stone the Crows. Unfortunately, the lead singer got electrocuted by a microphone. Weird story. I mean, God, you feel so bad for people. I mean, like they probably was sweating and having a good time singing, and bam, that was it. He was gone. You know? But anyway, there was lots of good bands and lots of good music. I don't know why I go off on these tangents occasionally, but I got a whole hour, so, look out, there could be a lot more tangents, I better get my phone out here and make sure I'm not. Yeah, I'm already at 8 o'clock, 8:05, so I need to start picking up the pace. Pardon me. So I used LSD, MDA, psilocybin, peyote, used cocaine, meth, shot up heroin, did a lot of drugs, but marijuana was my thing. None of them really, spoke to me. I would do cocaine, but what was Robin Williams' line? Cocaine is God's way of telling you have too much money, something like that. So, but then things started changing. I remember one time my wife and I got into an argument, and I had this water pipe, and I was smoking weed. And I was smoking it because I didn't want to feel bad, because we'd had this kind of nasty argument. My first wife, I don't want to go into too much detail other than to say she qualifies for this program and some other programs too. And those are not programs you want to qualify for. I'll just put it that way. So anyway, we had a lot of arguments, and I was smoking weed one time trying to feel good again, because that's my medicine. And I was smoking it and smoking it and smoking it, and it just didn't work. And I was thinking, my God, this is the first time that ever happened to me, because it used to be I could just smoke problems away and I'd feel okay. But no, it stopped working. That was like the first crack in my denial. And then, it just after a while, I just didn't get as high as I used to get. And then I didn't even really get high at all. I just got intoxicated. And some of you may know what I'm talking about. Probably some of you do. I mean, for me, maybe it'd be like 30 seconds of feeling good, and then I was like, oh, fuck. Now I'm stoned, my mind's foggy, I'm tired, I can't do anything. I guess I'll smoke some more. That's part of the insanity, but basically, it just stopped working. And then eventually, my wife decided after her second DUI to go to AA. And I was really happy that she decided to do that, because some of you may know that when people drink, they have mood swings. Of course, with her, when she didn't drink, she had mood swings too, but they were a different kind of mood swings, maybe not so scary. I mean, she was the same person that pointed a gun at me and said, I think I'm going to kill you, And she would say things like, obviously she didn't. She was just trying to scare me, I think. But I didn't know that for sure. You never know when somebody's looking at you a little crazy and they got a gun pointed at you. What's going to happen, But, I qualified for a 12-step program then. Al-Anon. Anybody would stay in a relationship with somebody to point a gun at him and say they're going to kill him? Or, this is another one of my favorites. When you go to sleep tonight, I'm going to get I'm going to get a knife from the kitchen, and I'm going to stab you. So, you'd have to be a pothead to stay in a relationship like that. You'd have to be pretty checked out, and guess what? I was really checked out. But I had the good sense. People in AA told me that you should check out Al-Anon. That might help you. Because, I was pretty disturbed by then. That kind of behavior is hard to deal with, especially when you're trying to go to work and support a family. So I went to Al-Anon. And Al-Anon is a really wonderful organization. A lot of really wonderful people there that, just like in this program, they love you until you learn how to love yourself. And, I started going to meetings and, people treated me nice there, They didn't yell and scream at me and threaten me or scare me, They were actually very nice people that were going through the same stuff because they were married to people that were out of control also. So that really helped. But then I started working the steps with my sponsor. I got this really good guy named Charles, and he was helping me work the steps. And then when we did a 4-step, we started talking about drug and alcohol use. And it became pretty clear that I was in the wrong 12-step program. So I started going to AA and NA. And I was very, very fortunate that where I lived, which was in Hayward, California, not exactly another garden spot, started going to the AA fellowship, and they said you can get anything you want there, including recovery. And the implication was you could get a lot of other things in, like a lot of trouble there. And it was a pretty raw edge kind of place. I went back there about 10 years ago, and it was really nice to go back there. Nobody that I knew that was there before was still there, but people were still there, still helping the newcomers coming off the street. You know, it was really great to see. And I also started going to NA. There was this really cool NA meeting that was in a treatment program. And the people there really believed that a drug is a drug is a drug and alcohol is a drug. And that was really good for me because they accepted me. You know, they didn't say, you know, come back, you know, when you really have a problem. If you haven't, you know, overdosed and you haven't killed somebody and you haven't spent time in jail, you don't really have a problem. No, they didn't say that to me. They said, you know, we'll support you. And they did. And I was able to get clean and sober. But my trouble was, you know, I really had a hard time internalizing the program. You know, I kept thinking, you know, I could get it up here, but getting it right here was not my specialty. I was so good at BSing myself and rationalizing myself. I started going to meetings in 1979. It was not till 1984 that I was able to get continuous recovery. So those of you who are good at math probably know I got 39 years. I'm really looking forward to December 15th. You know, I'm going to keep working on my program because I want to get the big 4-0, you know. I think that's going to be awesome when that happens. So I was one of these people that came up with all these things like, okay, I'm in NA, so it's okay for me to drink beer once in a while. So, you know, I would drink beer once in a while until, you know, I would go out. I would like go with my brother. He liked to drink beer. He wasn't an alcoholic. So we would order like a pitcher of beer, and I'd like have one mug of beer. And then about the third time I did, like every other week I would do that because I figured, okay, it won't get out of control if I do it every other week, just have one beer. Then the third time I had 2 beers. And, you know, I thought, well, okay, nothing bad happened, right? Next time around, I was drinking out of the pitcher. And it became real clear to me that no, that hasn't gone away. You know, there's a few other things like I got divorced my first wife. I finally had enough recovery where I could do that. Saved my life probably. And I thought, well, I divorced the problem, so hey, maybe I can use it normally again. Guess what? Didn't work. And then those of you who've heard my story, you probably know the last thing I tried was, okay, the reason I use compulsively is that I'm not very well adjusted. If I can get well adjusted, then I'll be able to use like a gentleman. So I did a year of psychotherapy. And it was really fabulous. The psychotherapy really worked well. I was able to quit smoking, so I was completely drug-free, no drugs, no alcohol. And then I started getting this idea, well, you know, I'm feeling pretty well adjusted. I've quit smoking. Cigarettes, that's the last big addiction I had. You know, I think I could try it. I had like a year. I had a year clean and sober. I think I could just do a little bit, especially with all I know now, and it won't get out of control. Guess what happened? Got out of control. What happened was this girlfriend I had, she said, here, John, you want to try some weed? And, you know, I thought maybe it'd help me, you know, have some intimacy, you know. So I thought, well, okay, I'll smoke with you, sure, you know. And then she gave me a little bit of it to take home with me. And I swear to God, after I'd been smoking it for about 8 hours, the compulsion to use came back so strong, it scared the shit out of me. And that was the last time I used marijuana. But that's not my sobriety date. I actually drank half a beer as celebration for graduating a semester. You know, we had a semester end party at this house I was staying at. And had half a beer, and that was it. That was the last time I ever used, December 15th, 1984. And, finally I was able to make recovery my priority. I got a really good sponsor who said some really good things to me, which was your number one priority has got to be being clean and sober and working a recovery program so you can do that. And so he said, the program is suggested. Just like if you jump out of an airplane with a parachute on, it's suggested that you pull the ripcord. And he had a really good point, this like, I'm going to work my program rather than the program. That can get you into a lot of trouble. Trust me, I relapsed so many times. I can tell you that does not work very well. Now, I don't want to say, you need to be a step Nazi or anything like that, or you need to be a big book thumper or anything like that. But, the program works if you work it. So, I found that that made a huge difference in my life when I quit fighting recovery and just accepted it and tried to make it work the best I could for myself. And so with the help of this sponsor, I was really able to get it on a gut level as opposed to an intellectual level. And that made all the difference in the world for me. Because I knew that if I wanted to have a life, I had to be clean and sober. Because I was trying to do something that was kind of hard to do, which is, work full-time, pay child support, and change careers, go to graduate school. And so I was able to do that. I graduated from JFK, got my master's degree in clinical psychology and also a certificate in chemical dependency studies, because I really didn't want to work as a machinist anymore. I was pretty good at it, and it paid fairly well, but I'll tell you, talking to a drill press all day or a lathe or milling machine, it's not a very interesting conversation, So, I changed careers to be a counselor, primarily with drug addicts and alcoholics. And so doing that, I knew I needed to be clean and sober because it just wouldn't work if I didn't. So one of the interesting things about going to graduate school is we had some really cool classes. There was this one guy who was a recovering alcoholic who taught this class in recovery. And during the discussions in that class, there was like 3 of us in there that were potheads. And, we started talking to each other and we realized there's no program for potheads. There's programs for meth heads. There's programs for cocaine addicts. Programs for alcoholics, just about anything you can think of. No program for marijuana. So we looked at each other and said, we should start a meeting. We should do that.
Yay.
But you know what? Like I said, I was working full time and going to graduate school and trying to spend time with my kids. And I didn't have the bandwidth, and none of them had the bandwidth either to do it. So we didn't pull it off. But, a few months later, 6 months, 9 months, somewhere around there, I was at a meeting. Kevin back there was the secretary of the meeting. This was an NA meeting. And there was a guy named Harry H. who showed up. And Harry was like desperate because he was trying to get sober in NA and AA. And it was really hard to do because, there was not a lot of experience, strength, and hope in that program for marijuana addiction. Marijuana addiction is a little bit different animal than some of the other addictions. It's the same disease, but it presents differently. The withdrawal is so much longer. And if you're really hardcore, it's really tough to kick marijuana because it just eats at you for days and days, like up to 90 days, maybe even longer for some people. So he asked for help. And about 4 or 5 of us showed up there, and we started talking. And it just occurred to me, well, maybe I'll mention that we could start our own meeting. And what the idea was is we would talk to NA and let them let us have a meeting. That would be an NA meeting with marijuana focus. And you know what they said to us? And as people say in the program, all you need is a coffee pot and a resentment. and you could start a program. So that's what we did. We got together at Harry's House, had our first meeting there, and then there's a place called Mandana House, which was a really cool idea. It was a community recovery center. So what the idea was the county would pay for a facility where 12-step meetings could have their meetings at a reasonable rate of money. And so that worked out well for us. We started upstairs. There was this little room, and within 2 or 3 meetings, there was people in the hallway. You know, it was like that nobody could fit in there. We were all sardined in there. So we got the downstairs fireplace room, really nice facility. And then we started another meeting in Berkeley Albany Recovery Center. And, you know, we were doing pretty good because, you know, we were all basically NA people. We had the sort of the NA focus. So we had who's a marijuana addict, came out of who's an addict in NA. And then the questions, you know, we modified those for marijuana. But then AA people started showing up. And they said, we have to have how it works. And, you know, I read half how it works at meetings, and I knew that thing is like 2 pages long. If we're reading who's a marijuana addict and we're reading, you know, how it works, I mean, not how it works, excuse me, we're reading the questions, we're going to spend all our time in the meeting reading stuff. We're not going to have time to talk to each other, which is where recovery happens. So, you know, we had to modify it. I remember we were in somebody's backyard, right, Kevin? And we were, you know, we had to just paraphrase it down to like almost nothing, you know, compared to AA. They like to talk in AA, you know. I'm an AA member, so I can say that. So I'm looking at my clock here, and God damn it, if I didn't just like go on and on. Now you'd think an hour would be a long time to talk, but it really isn't. So let me try to like zoom through some of this stuff here. So, you know, MA got started, MAA, we're Marijuana Addicts Anonymous. We thought, well, there's got to be other ones around, but, you know, we never heard of one. Then somebody came up from Southern California and said, there's meetings down in Southern California. There's Marijuana Smokers Anonymous and Marijuana Anonymous. And we said, oh, well, that's interesting. And at first we were thinking, do we really want to join with those people? I mean, like, they're from LA, you know? And if you're from Northern California, you know there's some issues there, right? We got over it, though, and we decided, you know, that'd be better for the addict who still suffers, which is kind of our litmus test. Our primary purpose is to help the addict who still suffers, right? That's what we're all about here. So we sent a letter, and we agreed to, after some communication, we agreed to meet in Morro Bay. And Morro Bay was a halfway point, so we decided that, yeah, let's try to make this happen. Morro Bay is an interesting place in that they have a big power plant there that has 3 giant towers, you know, columns, smokestacks. And to me, that symbolized MAA, MA, and MSA. And then there's this giant rock called Morro Rock, which is huge. It's like out of solid granite, I think. And I was thinking, you know, that'll last a lot longer than those 3 columns will. So I thought, okay, yeah, we need to get together. We need to unify. And so we talked, and we agreed to do that. We had a unity conference. And I'll tell you, that was a real shit show. I mean, and let me tell you why. I mean, like, everybody there was really wonderful, dedicated, you know, in love with recovery people. But I want to tell you, you know, I was an old timer and I had like a year and 2 3/4 years. You know, you're still a newcomer until you got 10 years. I mean, I hate to not offend anybody, but, you know, it takes a while for the emotional maturity. There was a lot of people that had like 6 months. There was people that walked out. I think MA walked out because they had to, you know, they'd already registered with the state, and they were pissed off that they weren't getting their way. And then I remember going outside and saying the Serenity Prayer about 30 times. You know, I was losing it, you know. It was tough, but you know what? We hung in there, and we agreed to, you know, do it. So it was. So we had a couple more Unity conferences. We got all the literature going. And I'll tell you, one of the more challenging service things was we needed a book. You know, AA has a book. You know, we got AA has a big book. NA has a basic text. Practically any 12-step program worth its salt has got a book. We didn't have Life with Hope yet. And so Harry actually wrote the first 6 chapters. You know, he wrote it, but, you know, he was pretty early in recovery then. And it was okay, but it needed more work. And that was sort of the basis that we got started. And then Carol and some other people in Los Angeles really got into it, and they wrote a lot of it. And then we would take it to the conferences to get approved. Whew, another shit show, you know. It's like, pardon my language, but you know, it was something else. I mean, like everybody had an opinion, and none of them were the same. You know, it was like we were just really struggling with trying to, you know, get something we could all agree on. There was at one time somebody had the bright idea that you couldn't mention that you were in AA or NA, you know, that would be some kind of affiliation, you know, even though it really isn't. So they had to get rid of all that, and then they decided you can't say you were from Oakland, California. You know? You had to say you were from a Western state, you know. So it just got very complicated. But there was also some beautiful times. I will never forget. They said, you know, we want to rewrite the end of step 12. And so I said, why do you want to do that? It's pretty good. And they said, well, we want it to be better. And so we all put our heads together, and you know, I had some good ideas, and some other people had some good ideas, and that's where, you know, our awakening came from. You know, when I read that, sometimes I get goosebumps. You know. Because to me, it was like divinely inspired, you know. It was just the way, you know, we all had these creative ideas and they all came together. It was really nice. But, you know, it finally got published, thank God. And then, you know, some of you know Susan B. from up in Portland area. You know, she was trying to get that meditation book done forever. I'm not sure if Louise is in there. Louise, are you in here? Right there. Yeah. Louise had a lot to do with that meditation book getting published too. And I think sometime toward the end of this year it's going to come out. Is that? You don't know? Yeah, I don't think anybody really knows it. Apparently some complex negotiations with Hazelden, and it takes a while to do all that stuff. So hopefully that'll be out. But you know, if you're like me, I get it on my computer for free. You know. Every day it comes, and so that's pretty cool. So, God, it's 8:28. I'm going to have to wrap up. I just want to say that, you know, I'll give you just a little snapshot of something I wanted to say here, which is, you know, I was not able to stay clean and sober until I realized I needed to be strongly connected to the program. And the way I did that was by being of service. I've always maintained some kind of service commitment, not always something like this. I mean, this is like over-the-top service doing this kind of stuff. But it was really, really a joy to do that kind of service. Because, you know, throwing a party, you just never know how many people are going to come. Well, 255 people so far registered, you know. When this is over, I'm looking forward to something I've always loved to do, which is travel. You know, Kathy and I are both retired, and we're gonna do some revenge travel. That was a word I learned, you know, after the COVID epidemic. People did revenge travel for the COVID epidemic. So I'm going to do some post-convention revenge travel. We're going to go to Japan, and then I got some other ideas like Mexico and Australia, some other cool places. So I just want to say it's really been kind of a joy to do this. I'm sorry I didn't get to talk more about some other things. I guess I need 2 hours next time. Just a little side note here. There used to be no time limit on the Saturday meeting for speakers, but one of those, I think I went on for like over half an hour, and then you decided we need a time limit. Well, limits are good in life, you know. It's actually kind of keeps us within the boundaries. So I want to thank you all for listening, and I just want to say, you know, that service and being involved in recovery has been the real joy of my life, and it's given me direction and purpose, and I don't have a single regret about doing the service that I've done. And I think about all the people that have better lives now because of Marijuana Anonymous and the work we've all done in here to keep Marijuana Anonymous alive and growing and thriving. It's really a beautiful thing. So give yourself a big round of applause.